country. That demand is coming from where else but Twitter, as reports surface that the FBI denied a request from the White House.
Multiple U.S. officials are telling CNN that the White House wanted the FBI to knock down media reports about communication between Russians and the Trump campaign during the 2016 presidential race. Now, White House officials pushing back on that, saying they only made the request after the FBI said the media reports were inaccurate. Let's talk about this. The relationship between the White House, the FBI. Tom Fuentes, CNN senior law enforcement analyst and a former FBI assistant director. Tom, so grateful to have your voice in this. First of all, we know that there is no law in U.S. code that prohibits communication between the White House and the Justice Department, except when you get into a pending investigation phase. That's when things get a little dicey there. Based on what you know, was there any violation?
So far, Christy, I don't see a specific violation yet in this particular matter, because the White House isn't trying to tell the FBI to lie or make up a story or something. They're basically relaying information that if they're aware that the investigation or the reporting about an investigation isn't accurate, could they please go public with it? And they chose not to go public. But I'd like to change one of the narratives here. The idea that the FBI does not talk to the White House, the President, Chief of Staff, National Security Advisor, almost every day, they do. And you hear that. You heard President Obama frequently come out. The FBI is updating me on this case, and my National Security Advisor, we're being informed, and these are pending investigations. Also, this time of every administration, you have a massive number of background investigations being conducted by the FBI. That includes nominations for secretary picks for the Supreme Court, U.S. judges, U.S. attorneys, ambassadors. So the FBI, in the middle of those backgrounds on that, would be reporting. If something nefarious comes up, they would almost immediately report to the White House about a particular nominee. So those kind of updates are occurring. No one has mentioned the fact that the Deputy Director, Andrew McCabe, was at the White House for a meeting. They've talked about this issue coming up as a sidelight in the hallway, not part of the main meeting. No one has ever said, well, what's he doing there? Obviously, he's there on regular business, and either the director or the deputy director are frequently at the White House on regular business, updating them on issues. So the idea that they don't talk to the White House is a little bit, just a little bit exaggerated.
So when Sean Spicer says, we didn't try to knock the story down, we asked them to tell the truth, wouldn't the FBI then come out and confirm if it was true?
Not necessarily, and I think that this becomes close to a borderline where the FBI is trying to evaluate, is this mainly a political request as opposed to whether the public needs to know at this point. But don't forget the backdrop of this. A number of these officials from the Trump campaign were under and still are under consideration for high positions in the U.S. government, especially in the U.S. national security apparatus. So if something is coming up that needs to be told to the White House sooner than later, it would be appropriate to tell the White House. It might not be appropriate, and usually isn't, to go public, while that's still in progress. But I think that's where this comes up, is that, that they're basically telling the White House, that these officials that are part of your campaign and under consideration for key positions, so far we don't see a problem with them, but it's not over yet, we're still looking. And that's the nuance in this particular issue is, yes, the investigation was still ongoing, and they might be waiting for leads coming in from overseas that could take days, weeks, or months, but the bulk of the investigation could have been completed to a point where the FBI could say, we don't think that these individuals were engaged in illegal activity with the Russian intelligence services. And especially, don't forget, you have members of the Democratic Party calling for impeachment of President Trump already. So issues based on this relationship that may or may not have been between Russian intelligence services and officials of the Trump campaign are pretty serious, especially when you already have talk of impeachment based on what's been reported.
Tom, I just have a couple of seconds, but I really want to get this in. This tweet from Donald Trump that it caught a lot of attention. He said, the FBI is totally unable to stop the national security leakers that have permeated our government for a long time. They can't even find the leakers within the FBI itself. classified information is being given to media that could have a devastating effect on the U.S. Find now. Are there leaks coming from the FBI, Tom, that are putting U.S. security at risk?
I'm not aware of that, and it certainly, even from the reporting, seems that many of the quotations are White House officials or senior White House officials, and I think that's where this came up. If the FBI was already under the impression that there was no violations, and then informed the Chief of Staff previous, then I could see where the White House would say, well, please make that public. The public ought to know that. And the FBI trying to evaluate, is that a political decision or is it important enough to try to look at what the rumors are going out in the public about the administration or potential members of the future administration.
Okay, Tom Fuentes, always appreciate your voice. Thank you so much, sir.